Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to this YouTube tutorial. In this section, we are going to be looking at molecules and ions. And today's objectives are the definition of a molecule and an ion, examples of a molecule and an ion. Then we shall briefly look at ionic compounds, uh, monoatomic ions, and then polyatomic ions. So from the previous video that I did about the periodic table, we discussed more about the elements in the periodic table, at least the first 18 elements. And in this chapter, we're going to basically look at what a molecule is and an ion. So a molecule is an aggregated of at least two atoms in a definite arrangement held by a chemical force. Or maybe you can say a molecule is a combination of two elements combined by a chemical force. And we have very many types of molecules, as we shall see. So one of the simplest molecule known is water. H2O is a combination of two. So we have hydrogen and oxygen. So we have two hydrogens and one oxygen. So this is a molecule. It's a combination of two atoms and combined by a chemical force. So in this type of bond between water molecule is a covalent bond. We shall see that in the later chapters. And we have other molecules. Like for example, if you have molecules between two hydrogen atoms, so this we call it diatomic molecule. So hydrogen gas is a diatomic molecule because it's a combination of two hydrogens. So when these two hydrogens combine with a chemical bond, so they form a molecule. Remember, we said a molecule is a reaction, a combination between of two elements. They may be the same or different. So usually, any compound that exists as a gas, from hydrogen to the halogen group, most of the elements there exist as gases. So we have chlorine gas, Cl2. We have oxygen gas, this is group 6. We have nitrogen gas, this is group 5. We have bromine gas. Iodine can exist as a gas, and fluorine as a gas. So most of these elements are group 7 or halogens. Then we also have hydrogen gas, which is group 1, oxygen group 6, nitrogen group 5. So all these are called molecules because it's a combination of two elements, though they are the same. So they form what we call gases. So these type of gases are called diatomic molecules. So to go on an ion. So an ion is basically a group of atoms or an atom with a net charge of either positive or negative. So an ion is an atom with either a positive or negative charge. For example, let us look at an example of sodium. So when you look at the periodic table, sodium is atomic number 11. So it has 11 protons. So there's a rule that says that if you have 11 protons, then you have 11 electrons. So positive and negative must balance out. Then, so for an ion of sodium, we write it like this. It's a plus. The protons will be the same because the protons represent the ion, sodium. Then the electrons will be less by 1. Sodium reacts by losing 1 electron. And this is how it is. Like I said in the periodic table, metals from group 1 up to group 3, the elements react by losing electrons. Whereas from group 4 to group 7, elements react by gaining electrons. So in this case, sodium lost 1 electron to resemble the nearby noble gas. So mostly in chemistry, elements always react to form something stable. Like for example, elements react to resemble the nearby noble gases, the group 8 members. So sodium resembles the nearby noble gas in this case, which is neon. So remember that neon is atomic number 10 and has 10 electrons. So these 10 electrons resemble neon. So sodium is more stable when it loses 1 electron. Whereas for another anion, for example, let's look at this is called a cation. Whenever an element reacts by losing an electron, when it's a metal, we call it a cation. So this is a cation. Then for an element that gains an electron, we call it an anion. And an example of an anion, we have chlorine and chlorine minus. So chlorine is atomic number 17, has 17 protons and 17 electrons. So when it reacts with, let me say, with sodium, it will gain 1 more electron which sodium lost and will form 18 electrons. Now, when you look at the periodic table, the nearby noble gas is argon and is number 18. So chlorine reacts by gaining 1 electron to resemble argon, whereas sodium reacts by losing 1 electron to resemble neon. So when sodium reacts with chlorine, they form this stable salt. So the electron that was with sodium was taken by chlorine, so that chlorine resembles the argon. Then sodium lost that electron, so that it resembles neon. So this is what we call an ionic bond, an ionic compound. So ionic compounds are ones where we have both positive and negative charges, meaning that one of the elements lost and the other gained. So we have what we call monoatomic ions, just like we saw with sodium. That's one monoatomic ion, and also chlorine minus is a monoatomic ion. So in chemistry, you're going to come across a bunch of other anions called the polyatomic ions, and these are quite many. So I'm going to list a few of them, and what you really need to know is their oxidative state or their oxidative number. So we have chlorine C minus, Cl minus, we have fluorine minus, bromine. Sorry, these are monoatomic. Let me first list the polyatomic. So these we have the sulfate, we have the sulfide, we have the nitrate, we have the nitride, we have the phosphate, phosphate is 3. We have the cyanide, and so on. And there are really so many of them. So we shall look at them in the further topics. So, like we said, monoatomic, they are only 1. So we can have Cl minus, we can have F minus, we can have oxygen 2 minus, nitrogen 3 minus, and so on. So these are monoatomic. Whereas these are polyatomic, they consist more than one element. So we have sulfur oxygen, nitrogen oxygen, phosphorus oxygen, carbon nitrogen, and so many others that we shall see. So therefore, this is the brief introduction to the molecules and ions. So you need to know all the concept here, because as we go further in chemistry, each chapter builds on each other. So if you didn't understand the previous chapters, it will be very hard for you to understand this chapter. So therefore, this is the brief explanation of molecules and ions, and it will help you to go further in the next chapter, which is chemical formulas and chemical names. So thank you for tuning in. We shall meet in the next tutorial. Bye for now.